Hi, welcome to Drive North. My name is Matt, and in this video we're going to be doing a Q&A segment on renting out your RV. So just a recap of our channel. We are a family of 5 from Fridley, Minnesota. We are part-time RVers exploring the upper Midwest, and on this channel you're going to find a lot of campground reviews, tours of new RVs, and I have a series called Is It Worth It to Rent Out Your RV? 2019 we started renting out our 2018 Mallard M185. It went pretty well, so in 2020 we added a second rig, a 2020 Grand Design 2400 BH, and kind of started our own little RV rental business. So we get a lot of people asking questions about how we do it. You know, family, friends, even people we rent our campers out have a lot of questions about how the RV rental business works. So we thought we'd end 2020 here with a top 10 questions on renting out your RV. So kind of in order, these are the kind of the big questions people ask a lot. So number 10, how has COVID affected the RV rental business? Great question, and one that's actually changed throughout the year. You know, we bought our Grand Design at the end of February, right before COVID, exploded, and right before the state started shutting down all the campgrounds. So we were really nervous when COVID started out that we made a mistake buying the second camper. And those first couple months were rough. May, April, we didn't have a lot of rentals on the books because there was just no place for people to go camping. But then the state opened up the state parks and allowed private campgrounds to operate beginning in June. And then the rental business just exploded. And I read a lot of articles too talking about 2020 being a banner year for the RV rental business, and we sure saw that. I mean, people were, they're not flying, they're not going on cruises. They were looking for different ways to go do a family vacation, and RV rentals or RVing became a great way to do that. And COVID ended up being very beneficial to the RV rental business. Number 9, do you advertise? Well, with RV rentals, if you use RV Share and Outdoorsy like we do, you don't necessarily need to do extra advertising because people go to the website, they can search for the campers there, they see the pictures, the description, it's all handled through the websites. However, when we started doing this, we thought we could generate a little more interest by doing our own advertising. So I did some ads on Craigslist, we started a Facebook page, and I even put us on Google Maps. Using our home address, but Drive North RV Rentals. But like I said, the RV rental business just exploded. We were getting so much demand just through RV Share and Outdoorsy that it was actually too much bringing in these sources from additional advertising. So I immediately stopped doing Craigslist ads. We started a Facebook page, but then we kind of stopped putting anything on there. And as far as Google Maps goes, I initially had my phone number on there. I actually took my phone number off after about 2 weeks. I also, on Google Maps, put in there the website introductory page for Outdoorsy. There's a page you can go to Outdoorsy that kind of talks about you, your campers, and how you can rent them. I was hoping most traffic would go to that and they'd get all their answers taken care of there, but I found people were just looking at RV rentals, they weren't going to the website, they were calling me direct, and almost everybody was looking for a motorhome. So basically, the extra advertising, we started out doing it and then we stopped. It just turned into too much hassle, and we were just turning people away, telling them that, the campers were booked through RV Share and Outdoorsy. Number 8, how often is your RV booked? Now, I'm not going to go into all the specifics month by month. That's what my series is for, my Is It Worth It to Rent Out Your RV series. I go into a detailed accounting of that. I show calendars, and you can get a really good picture, in-depth picture of how much it's going out. But I will sum it up by saying this. The RV rental season in Minnesota is pretty strong, pretty much from April to the end of October. In those months, both of our RVs are gone every single weekend. Between us using them and rentals, they're gone all the time. And there's some long rentals in there too. We've had several week-long, a couple 2-week-long rentals. They are gone, I don't want to say nonstop because there are days when they're at home, but they're gone more often than they're here. Number 7, people often ask, how do you deal with people that don't have any RV experience? Another good question, and like I said, we have 2 campers, a 21-foot bunkhouse and a 29-foot bunkhouse. We find that a lot of the newbies are renting out our smaller camper. Traditionally with our bigger one, we're finding that it's usually a little more experienced campers that are taking that one out. And I do have in the description for the Grand Design that you have to have towing experience, and I think that kind of whittles out some of the unexperienced people as well. But still, you still have to deal with people that don't know as much about your RV as you do. So one thing that I do is I have YouTube videos for each camper. They're set up and operational videos where I go through every system. I show all the things that come with the camper and some of the things you need to watch out for, some things that might be damaged easily. And that really helps people feel more comfortable. It helps when they get to your house and when they do that initial walkthrough, you know, they have a heads up on what to expect. Another thing you got to do is just communicate with these people. Right when they book through RV Share Outdoorsy, you're starting a line of communication. It's through text. And you ask them, what questions do you have? They're going to have their own questions too, and just keep that line of communication going so you can eliminate any questions and problems before they even head out. Now, when your renter is out and about, they're still going to have questions from time to time, and you know you're going to get that call or text in the middle of the weekend. But I've found if you do a good job setting up the instructions at the beginning, those questions are going to be pretty minor, and there's never been anything that we haven't been able to get figured out. Number 6, how do you deal with taxes? Now, I'm not an accountant. Basically what I do, I just track everything. I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of every single penny that goes into these campers, you know, as far as equipment, repairs, payments. I save every single receipt, and at the end of the year, I give that all to my accountant. What we found out for 2019, granted, 2019 was only a half a season with 1 rig. We brought in a few $1,000s, and essentially with depreciation and expenses, our tax burden was essentially 0. 2020 will be a little more interesting because we had a pretty good year with 2020, but again, with the depreciation and the expenses, I imagine that our tax burden is not going to be really big. When I do get those numbers, I'll share that in one of my monthly update videos. Number 5, people often ask, where do you store your campers? A lot of renters ask this when they come out because we have a modest house in a residential neighborhood, you know, 2-car garage. It doesn't look like we have extra room for 2 rigs. And we do have a lot going on besides the 2 campers. We have 2 teenage drivers. I have a work car. There's just a lot going on at our house. Fortunately, we do have a really big backyard. We have almost an acre of land. However, I only have access to our backyard through one side of the house. I have this big oak tree, and getting back there is tight. I can only get our small camper back there, and even then it's only by inches. And it's actually really stressful getting that thing back there, and I don't like doing it. I only put it back there if it's gonna be at home for an extended period of time. And with the RV business being so busy, an extended period of time for us is like 4 to 5 days. Otherwise, the campers are sitting out front, but they're gone all the time. So it's really rare to have both campers in the driveway at the same time. That's only happened a couple of times, and it's usually only for one night. So the space problem kind of takes care of itself. Oh, another thing I did too at the beginning of the year, kind of an important thing, I actually added an extension to our driveway. So technically our driveway is 3 vehicles wide. That was very helpful. In the winter, our small mallard stays in the backyard. My father owns a body shop, so the large one goes and stays on his property for the winter. Number 4, what do you do when somebody damages your RV? What do you do when somebody doesn't clean it or doesn't empty the holding tanks? Now, if they rent through RV Share or Outdoorsy, obviously there is a security deposit involved, and insurance is handled through those companies. So we've been lucky. We've really only had to request monetary reparations from one person, and that was handled no problem. I actually have a separate video on that you can check out. But essentially you have a security deposit, which we've actually upped on both of our rigs, and I might up again. You know, we have it at $1,000 on our Grand Design, and I haven't had anybody question that. That hasn't deterred anybody from renting the RV. And we might up that to $1,500 this year. Because if you think about it, if somebody can't afford a $1,500 hold on their credit card for a security deposit, that might not be somebody you want taking out your equipment to begin with. So you have the security deposit to work with, but if the damages exceed the security deposit, then you can file an insurance claim with the company as well. As far as like not cleaning or emptying the tanks, we do have in our description that there are fees for that. You know, if you don't clean it, that's a $40 fee. If you don't empty the black tanks, that's a $30 fee as well. So there are some ways you can be protected there. Number 3, people often ask, what do you do about insurance? Well, like I said before, insurance is handled through RV Share and Outdoorsy. Your customer pays for insurance when they have the camper out to be used. And there's different levels of insurance they can purchase, you know, smaller, bigger deductibles, that sort of thing. You know, people do have the option as well as using their own insurance company, you know, getting a special rider for the weekend for your camper. We've had a few people do that. Now, RV Share or Outdoorsy, they do have to approve that. They have to see proof of that policy. And obviously we require to see that as well, but that's an option. People ask, do you have commercial insurance? And this is something we've looked at and is something we're considering. Commercial insurance is really expensive. But big pro with commercial insurance is your rigs are covered while you're using them and when the renter is using them. And then, you know, potentially the process of filing a claim could be streamlined or more beneficial to you because it's your insurance company. But like I said, it's expensive, something we're looking at, something we haven't dedicated ourselves to yet. Number 2, people are always asking how much money we make. So our Mallard we rent out for $118 a night. Our Grand Design we rent out for $129 a night. Now the companies each take their own share between 15 and 20%, and you obviously have your own expenses and insurance and all that. But in my monthly series, I actually break down those numbers. I have a spreadsheet and I share with you month by month exactly how much money we're making. Now granted, like I said, I'm not an accountant. It's more of a snapshot or a big picture of how much we're making. You know, I don't get into what our cost benefit analysis is. Some people ask if I've broken it down to how much we make per hour putting into this. You know, I'm not doing all that. It's just kind of a snapshot of how much we're making after payments, insurance, expenses, maintenance, that sort of thing. Going into 2021, I am going to start to fine tune that a little bit, and I'm going to start adding in depreciation to give it a little more realistic picture. But for now, big snapshot of 2020, we brought in around $15,000 gross. And then after payments, insurance, maintenance, expenses, we were between $10,000 and $11,000 net profit. Number 1, the number 1 question we get asked about renting out our RV is it worth it? Is it worth the risk of somebody else using your rig, putting that extra wear and tear on it, damages happening? You know, we get so many people saying, oh, I could never do that. How can you have other people use your rig like that? How is it worth it? But for us, it is worth it. You know, if there's no reward, if there's no risk, yeah, we're at risk of extra wear and tear, of damages, you know, but it's actually been, I think, fairly minimal. But our reward, I think, has been fairly substantial. You know, with the money that we've made, our Mallard, which is going to be 3 years old this year, we initially had a 10-year loan. That's going to be paid off this year. And then I'm going to accelerate paying off our Grand Design, which was on a 15-year loan. I'd like to have that paid off in around 3 years. And in addition, I use all our rental money to pay for our family trips. Pretty much all our vacations and trips this summer in 2020 were paid through with RV rental money. We are taking a 2-week trip down to Florida in February. That's going to be paid for through RV rental money. You know, is it work? Yes. Is it a hassle? Yes. One of the biggest hassles to this is just being around. You know, you have to be around for pickups. You have to be around for drop-offs. And, you know, especially with 2 campers, that's a lot of appointments that have to be made. And not that we've missed out on a lot of things, but there's been a few times where we were going to go do something, but oh shoot, they're picking up the camper Saturday at 10, you know, we can't. So yeah, there are some hassle, there is some extra work, but you know what, there's a lot of pros to it. Aside from the money, some things I've mentioned in previous videos are, you know, sometimes it's fun talking to these people. You're meeting a lot of like-minded people, you know, these are RV people, you have something in common, and it's fun talking to them about their experiences and their future plans. A lot of people are renting your RV because they're shopping for a new RV, and I don't know, I just always like talking about shopping for RVs. That's kind of fun. You learn so much about the RV community. You learn so much about your own rig, you know, troubleshooting problems, learning how the systems work. And overall, I think you end up being a better RVer. So there you have it. Those are our top 10 questions that we are asked about renting out our RV. Hope you enjoyed it. And once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.